Welcome back to Biology Meets Society podcast, where we will be exploring how biology, environment, and social work practice intersect. I'm your host, Cecilia Miller, and today's episode focuses on the influence of physical environment and ecological conditions on overall well being, as well as the role of environmental justice and social work in the emerging field of ecosocial work. Our surroundings shape far more than we often realize, and they affect our stress levels, our physical health, our behaviors, and even how safe or supported we feel in our daily lives. Today, I'll be using my own community, which is Aldie, Virginia, as an example to explore how environmental factors impact individuals, families, and communities, even in areas that appear well resourced. Before we dive in, I just want to say that environmental health affects all of us, whether we tend to notice it or not. Even when we live in areas that seem comfortable or well resourced, our surroundings still influence our stress levels, our health, and how supported we feel day to day. With that being said, let's get started. So, one of the things we'll be talking about is community description, which is overlooking Aldie, Virginia. Aldie, Virginia is a growing suburban urban area which is located in Loudoun County. It is often viewed as a desirable community with new housing developments, well maintained neighborhoods, access to large retailers such as Costco and Wegmans, planned communities, and green spaces. But at the same time, Aldi is an expensive area, very expensive, especially in certain places. And the high cost of living creates challenges for many residents. While the community may appear affluent, families often experience financial strain related to housing costs, childcare, transportation, and healthcare. According to Loudoun 2040 Comprehension Plan, rapid growth and development have increased pressure on infrastructure, traffic patterns, and land use, which is raising concerns about long-term sustainability and quality of life, which is very true. This area is growing like really fast. They've been putting lots of roundabouts in. We have a bunch of different schools that only have one grade in it because it's just overpopulated. And at the same time, Aldi is often seen as a nice area, but that doesn't always mean that it's stress-free. Many families are working hard just to keep up with rising costs, and that pressure can quietly affect mental and physical health. Moving on to influence of physical environment and ecological conditions on biology and behavior. So, cost of living and chronic stress. Even in affluent areas, financial strain can lead to chronic stress. So, when families stretch income to afford housing, childcare, transportation, and healthcare, the body often remains in a prolonged stress response. According to human biology, chronic activation of the stress response system increases cortisol levels, which can disrupt sleep, impair immune function, as well as negatively affect our mood and emotional regulation. Over time, sustained cortisol exposure contributes to anxiety, depression, and even emotional burnout. And it still happens even in communities that appear well sourced on the surface. When people hear the word stress, they often think it's just emotional, but stress is also physical. It affects our sleep, our appetite, our mood, and our focus. That's why financial pressure can feel exhausting even when everything looks fine on the outside. Another thing is data centers and environmental strain. One of the most significant ecological issues in Loudoun County right now is the rapid expansion of data centers. According to Virginia Joint Legislative, centers contribute to increased energy consumption, land use changes, noise pollution, and environmental sustainability concerns. For residents, this expansion often means prolonged construction. You have increased traffic and concerns about environmental impact. These changes can alleviate stress levels and create uncertainty, which directly affects mental and physical well-being. Data centers tend to be described as economic assets, but it's also important to ask how they affect nearby communities. You have increased noise, construction, and land use changes all impact how safe and comfortable feel in their own neighborhoods. Another one is built environment and daily behavior. The design of a community influences how people move, interact, and eat. While LT et al. Found that health behaviors are shaped by social norms and environmental access, including physical activity opportunities and food availability. While, yes, Aldi offers walking trails and fitness spaces, access is not equal for all residents. Long work hours, commuting demands, and financial pressures may limit the ability to engage in healthy behaviors, which reinforces stress and health disparities. So, Aldi has like a crazy amount of walking paths and different parks, and you don't see a lot of people out and about. You don't see a lot of people now because it's winter, but even during the summertime, it's not as heavily populated as one would think with how many trails that we have. And now we're moving on to strategies for social workers to address environmental challenges. So, social workers play a critical role in helping clients navigate environmental stressors at multiple levels of practice. So, when we talk about the micro level, which is individuals and families, they help clients identify environmental contributors to stress and health concerns, educate clients on grounding and nature based stress regulation. They help normalize stress responses related to cost of living and development, as well as connect families with community resources that reduce environmental strain. With the meso-level strategies, which targets groups and communities, they help facilitate support groups addressing stress, financial pressure, as well as parenting. They also provide psychoeducation on environmental health concerns, as well as collaborate with schools and community centers to promote safe outdoor activities. And finally, strengthen social connections in rapidly developing communities. And then finally, the last one is macro level strategies, which dives into advocacy and policy. Um, Social workers partner with county planning and public health agencies. They address hidden disparities within high income communities, as well promote environmental transparency and community voice. And finally, advocate for sustainable development practice. Mason et al. Emphasizes that while social workers recognize environmental justice as a core concern, many lack formal training, showing the need for stronger ecosocial frameworks in practice. And now moving on to environmental justice and ecosocial work. Environmental justice means that no group should bear disproportionate environmental burdens, regardless of income or geographic location. Even in Aldi, as much as it's shown as, the wealthy city and stuff like that, disparities exist, including workers facing long commutes, which is is really true. We have a lot of people that commute to DC as well as Remington, Maryland. They come from all over. Workers face or families priced out of housing, residents affected by constant development, and limited public input on land use decisions. Mason et al. Found that social workers increasingly view environmental justice as a part of their professional responsibility. Ecosocial work responds by integrating environmental awareness into social work practice, recognizing that ecological conditions directly influence biological and social well-being. And when it comes to environmental justice, it isn't just about blame, it's also about fairness. Everybody deserves clean air, safe housing, and a healthy place to live. It shouldn't matter about their income or location at all. And then finally, we move on to advocacy to improve client and community well being. Social workers can advocate for environmental health in meaningful ways. One way is client level advocacy. They can support clients navigating housing or zoning concerns, assist families affected by rising costs or development, as well as validate environmental stress as a legitimate health issue. Helping clients understand that environmental stress affects health can be empowering for them. It shifts the focus from self blame, which can happen to a lot of people, to awareness and action. Now, moving on to community level advocacy. Social workers partner with environmental and public health organizations. They also participate in town halls and county planning meetings, as well as promote community education on environmental health, which is very important. Finally, we move on to policy level advocacy. Social workers help support sustainability goals outlined in county planning documents, advocate for responsible data center expansion, as well as encourage policies that balance growth with well being. So, when communities come together to advocate for responsible development, a lot of good change can happen. A lot of small voices can add up, and social workers can help those small voices be amplified. Environmental advocacy aligns directly with social work values of dignity, justice, and holistic care. And that is all for today. I want to thank you for listening to episode 2 of the Biology Meets Society podcast. Today, we explored how physical environments and ecological conditions influence health and behavior, even in communities that appear well sourced, like Aldi. Environmental justice and ecosocial work remind us that social workers must look beyond the individual and consider the environments and systems shaping daily life. If you're listening and feeling affected by environmental stress, know that your experience is 100% valid, and being able to understand how environment shapes health is the first step toward creating healthier, more supportive communities all around us. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you on the next one.